everybody, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb. I'm your host, Joyce Weiss, communication coach, known as Queen of Conflict Resolution. Well, I have a question for you. Would you like to get some inside secrets on some of the challenges and successes that are happening in the HR field? Well, I have a special guest today who has a background that just blew me away. Therefore, I even recorded her bio. I didn't want to just sit here and read it. So let me first introduce you to our guest. I'll come right back.
Laura Velez is an HR professional with over 14 years of experience within the automotive, manufacturing, and hospitality industries, and served 8 years with the Michigan Army National Guard. Her areas of expertise are talent acquisition, employee relations, and leadership development. She will complete her master's degree in organizational leadership from Cornerstone University in June of 2022, and she's excited about that. Her mission in HR is to put the human back in human resources by teaching effective communication and encouraging vulnerability for continued growth in leaders and employees. A fun fact about Laura is that she is a history buff with an extra love for medieval history. She says there are lots of lessons to be learned from history that are relevant today.
Hello, Laura, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Joyce. How are you?
I'm good. Well, listen, I have some questions that I've been burning to ask you.
Yeah.
Before we get into this, though, could we please tell us about the medieval passion that you have for history and how it really affects what's going on?
So I started getting into more of the medieval history after I gave birth to my second child. I was on maternity leave and I started watching The Tudors on Showtime. And I was watching the show and I thought, this is not accurate. Doesn't make any sense. So I started reading more into it and I was just blown away by the historical inaccuracies in some of the shows, and B, how a lot of the historical main points, like the Tudor dynasty, the Plantagenets, some of it could be relevant today, specifically in leadership. I'm working on a little side project called the Leadership Delusion. I'm still not sure if it's going to be a book or if it's going to be a podcast or a blog. But ultimately, leadership isn't something that is a birthright. Leadership is not something that is just given to you. Leadership is something that you build yourself into. It is intentional. So that's something that I really try to strive to push all of my leaders to do, is be intentional about what you do. It is a privilege not only for employees to work there, but it's a privilege for you to lead them.
Oh my God, what a great opening. And when we're done, we could even talk when we're off the air about your project, because maybe there's some input that I can have since I have a vlog. This program right now is a vlog because it's going to go on the blog and social media. So first question is, what are some of the negative aspects and challenges that you experience as an HR professional?
COVID has been the biggest challenge that we've had. I think that's across the board with all HR professionals, regardless of titles. That was one of the things that we did not anticipate. We did not have an emergency plan in place for a pandemic. We had emergency plans in place for hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, but not pandemics. That's not something that we were anticipating. So it was just one of those, wow, we're just blown away by the enormity of the project and what we have to do to ensure that A, we're compliant with CDC, B, we're compliant with OSHA, and ensuring that the communication is going out to all of the employees. It was difficult, especially when we had to do furloughs and lay people off. coming back to work, especially in the restaurant industry, has been difficult. Some people just chose not to come back. So we've been in this hiring push and pull, as I like to call it, where we're hiring people, but sometimes we might have issues retaining them, or maybe they just were looking for a job. The amount of unemployment claims that I've received were also enormous. I can't recall a time where I've received that many unemployment claims. And I think the biggest challenge that we've had is, how do we need to look at ourselves as leaders within the company, and how do we need to adjust? We've dealt with burnout. We've dealt with mental health issues. Everyone has gone through something throughout COVID. How do we need to reset and realign our leadership strategy to make sure that it is beneficial for the employees? So that is something that we're working on as a company, is elevating our leadership to another level, not just being a manager. Managers just do day-to-day tasks and oversee that, but being a leader and influencing everyone to put their best into their work.
So I need to ask you, your company, tell us just in a couple of sentences exactly what you do, because I see the name. I hear you refer to restaurants, but tell us, what is not what you do, we know that. What is, tell us all about Maru Hospitality Group.
Maru Hospitality Group owns Maru Sushi and Ando Sushi and Grill. We have 7 locations right now. We have a location in East Lansing, Kalamazoo, 2 in Grand Rapids, 1 in Midland, 1 to Detroit, and we're also opening up another location in Brighton later this year. So we specialize more in the Japanese cuisine, and our core mission is to prepare thoughtfully made sushi. I can tell you that prior to working for Maru Hospitality Group, I did not have any sushi before. Just the thought of eating the raw fish was just appalling to me, like, oh, it should be cooked. But after I ate some of the sushi, I went there after I was hired, like, okay, I really need to know what the concept is if I'm going to try to sell it. I was blown away. I mean, not only did they not have raw fish in some of their sushi offerings, but it was so delicious and so thoughtfully prepared. You wouldn't think that, hey, it's on a plate, but just the presentation and the care that it took to prepare the plate like that and make it beautiful was really meaningful.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to put you on a spot here, and you could say yes, even though you're crossing your fingers. When the one opens in Brighton, Michigan, because I'm just a few miles from there, let's meet there for lunch.
Yes.
Or dinner or a snack, whatever. I mean, it's fun, because you'll teach me all about sushi. So, my dear viewers, if you haven't tried sushi, or you have, in the comment section when this goes on the blog, let me know all about it, and I'll send Laura your info. So now you mentioned something that, yes, it's hard to get good people. How do you keep your top talent from leaving when you finally find people who want to work? Hallelujah.
Yes. And that's a big question. And I have found that it is all based in communication and relationships. You have to build that trusting relationship with your employee and with colleagues, just so there is that open door. Like I said, anyone can be a manager. Anyone can just manage the day-to-day tasks. But the question is, how are you going to influence them? How are you going to pick that person up when they're discouraged? How are they going to pick you up when you're discouraged? It's a symbiotic relationship.
And do you help you or the company train your managers so they have those soft skills? Because, sometimes the old days, people put their nose up to the soft skills. Now,
yes,
no. So tell me, how do your leaders know how to do this important work that you're suggesting they have to do?
It's all based on training. We have our quarterly workshops with all of the leaders, and one of the main focuses is, focusing on some of our core values as well, but just giving them some tips and insights on how they are able to implement some of the strategies that I've given you, and some of the strategies that maybe the owner might have on leadership, and how it can be implemented in their everyday tasks and their day-to-day lives.
So when people leave. I mean,
Mhm.
whether it's this year or last year, for their exit interviews, do you find out? And if I'm putting you on the spot, we can go to the next, what the main reason is.
Sometimes they keep it very PC and just say, I
Mhm.
found another opportunity. But if you dig into a little bit further, you could see that maybe they're burnt out. Maybe they felt a little unappreciated. Maybe they just felt that it was not the right fit for them. There have been times more with our hourly positions where some people are not able to keep up with the pace. It is a fast paced
Mhm.
environment.
Mhm.
And we acknowledge not everyone is going to make it through. We do have a rigorous training that after 90 days, you are to complete every single course on our learning management system and complete the final exam. Otherwise, you're terminated. That's the contingency of the
That's
employment.
fair. It's called expectations. You need
Exactly.
to let them know. Not all companies do that. And you need to hear from them, hopefully, when you hire or whomever hires them, you know what they are looking for too. So
Right.
that's great. That I hate to. Did you want to say anything else about how you keep your people?
One thing we've done is thought outside of the box. We have always wanted to implement an employee assistance program, but have just never gotten around to it. It was going to be launched in February of 2020, I believe, and then the pandemic hit. So that was just pushed off to the side. I'm proud to say that we have launched the Healthiest You by Teladoc that offers medical services to those who are not eligible for our medical benefits. Per ACA standards, you're supposed to work the consistent 30 hours per week or on average. But this also has unlimited mental health resources. So if they are feeling burnt out, if they do need to talk to a nutritionist, let's say that they want to eat better, they want to have a healthier lifestyle just to kind of counteract some of the burnout, that is available to them at a very low premium.
Wow. That is your company sounds wonderful. I have a
It
feeling
is.
I'm going to be inviting you back to get to dig even deeper with other questions. Now I'm going to switch topics from the good news, how you keep your people and how you're training your leaders so that your top talent stays. Is let's get to some of the challenges because I'm all about challenges and resolving these conflicts, not just I'm not here to just have people complain, and I know you're not one of them, I can already tell. So share, what are the largest challenges do you hear from your employees? You already mentioned a few of them, whether it's, I'll read a few for you to select from. Gossip, micromanagers, poor leadership, toxic environment, too much drama, overworked, burnout. Hello, you already talked about that. Underpaid, underappreciation, favoritism, managers not listening.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your top ones that you would like to address, please.
Underappreciation is probably the big one, and underpaid is another big one. I did a wage study in quarter 3 of 2021, and we are competitive with the market. We are actually at maybe 110 to 120% for our comp ratio for the industry within the area. But at the same point, we also understood we are competing with other businesses that are offering these employees more to come work with them. So we have to be more strategic about it and say, okay, what can we do to ensure that they're feeling appreciated as well as fairly compensated? We have increased our minimum wage up to $14.50 an hour to include dishwashers, mind you. Some of our areas like Detroit, just because it's a larger city, they have a higher minimum wage, which is fine. But at the end of the day, by I believe the end of 2023, we want to be at $15 an hour for a minimum wage within the company. Our tipped employees, even though their minimum wage is a state minimum wage for tipped employees, they make outstanding money as tipped employees. Some people receive tips up to $400 a night. Some people receive tips
Wow.
up to $2,000 every 2 weeks since everyone is biweekly.
Mhm.
And of course, we're going to bump them up to our minimum wage if they don't receive the comparable tips.
Wow. And just a side note, I believe in tipping anyone who's
Yes.
helping our lives get better.
Yes.
And I got the chills because sometimes I have the ugliest conversations with friends. What's the difference? Nah, I will over tip. And when we meet, you'll see I mean it. I'm not just a bunch of words. So please, folks, you didn't ask me to say this, did you? Laura, no way. But let's help the people who are helping us just feel a little normal.
Right.
So you mentioned being underpaid and underappreciated. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Sure. Underappreciation is more the manager's relationship with the employee, I would think. A lot of the topics, a lot of the conversations that I've heard was talking about how they just want that recognition from their manager that they did a good job, that they're doing a good job. That recognition from the manager that even though they might not have received a good performance evaluation, that they are trying and they're actually working towards the goals. Again, I understand things happen, life happens. I have reached out to employees who have dealt with some personal issues just to say, hey, I'm here for you. What do you need? Just let me know if you have any questions. It's just building that relationship as well, like I mentioned before. But it's just showing that basic appreciation and the respect for their position that's vital to show that appreciation overall. You can give the tangible gifts like raises, bonuses, etc., but that's going to go away. What's going to really stick is the intangibles, just saying, Joyce, you're doing an outstanding job and I appreciate everything you're doing.
And to go along with what you just said, for those who are watching or listening, what you may or may not know is I'm all about working with HR professionals to coach their leaders and employees so they feel comfortable using their voice without losing their cool to get heard and the results that they deserve. So this is music to my ears. So you are such a perfect guest because usually at this point I'd be saying, so what are you doing about those challenges? You already answered that. So we could go to, did you want to say anything else about this or can we go on?
We can go on.
Because I don't want to stop your flow. Okay. So what advice would you give your 18-year-old self, Laura? Let's say there's a time machine and you were able to go back to when Laura was 18 years old. What would you tell her?
18-year-old Laura was crazy.
Whoa!
Yeah, I loved it. I actually enlisted in the National Guard when I was 18. So if I could go back, I would just say, keep on going, keep on the momentum, but be confident in yourself. I know that even though the military was great, just kicking that confidence into me and showing that I have the professional worth, a lot of times I was discouraged. A lot of times I didn't have anyone to do that for me. So it's just a matter of having that confidence and the tenacity to continue going. Things are going to happen in life. Just keep on going, if you will.
So how did you keep on going when you didn't have the support that your 18-year-old needed? We all need it. I don't care how old we are.
Yes.
But even back then, you didn't have the support you needed, and you obviously got your tenacity and you're moving forward from somewhere. Where did that come from?
I would have to say my mother. She is that strength in my life. I love her to death, where it's just like, I can overcome anything if she can overcome that. And she had that willpower to overcome whatever challenges that she had. She got her RN. She became an RN when she was 40 years old, and she completed her bachelor's in nursing when she was 50. Wow. So it's like, Mom, That's awesome. Thank you for being such a perfect role model. I also got that from my dad. My dad completed his degree, his undergraduate degree, when I was in school. I can't remember how old I was, but I remember being maybe about 11 or 12. And currently, I'm going through my master's degree through Cornerstone University.
Yes.
He is finishing up his MBA through Cornerstone University. So we enrolled together and went through that journey together.
Oh, wow. So your 18-year-old self has such a powerful message, because many of my interviews, and by the way, that one of my guests gave me the idea to ask this question. And he said, so Joyce, what about you? And I said, oh, I was put on the spot. I'm not supposed to have questions asked to me. So I said, just don't give up. And the other thing is, don't let anyone stop you.
Yes.
Because we all, I'm sure we could talk about that for another hour. We've all had those experiences, not to let anybody stop us. So
Right.
that is, I love your time machine. So what kind of topics, well, no, before I get to that, if we were to meet, which we're going to, and we were going to either have a glass of Japanese wine or tea, what burning question would you ask me as a communication and conflict resolution coach?
My burning questions would be, what challenges have you faced? Not everyone goes through the same challenges. My challenges are unique to myself and my career, but what challenges have you faced in your career? How did you overcome that? And how were you able to teach other organizations and other leaders to overcome their challenges?
Oh my God, I love this. And I'm going to give you a Reader's Digest example, which means it's very short because this could be 14 hours. I was not heard when I was a child. And then as I grew up, there were a couple bully friends in my life who I just didn't know how to deal with it. As strong as I became, because I wasn't heard, and now all of a sudden I'm the queen of conflict resolution. How did that happen? A lot of schooling, a lot of coaching that I had. And I had to do something about these bullies because I was starting to train at that time and I didn't feel authentic. How could I teach these wonderful organizations and my individual coaching clients if I can't take it? So I figured it out. I absolutely figured out. I created the Weiss Communication Success Plan. And that's what I teach in my course, Kick Conflict to the Curb. So that's what I had to do on my own, pushed it through. When bullies come in my life now, Laura, I say to myself, not to them, then they feel pushed. Bring it on. Let's see how we're going to have a good time with this. So
Yes,
that's
I love it.
And then how I work with clients, whether it's the organization or the individual, is I find out exactly what they need to feel heard at meetings, to get that promotion if they don't know, if they're not as direct. And then there's the other person who they're way too direct. And sometimes HR professionals contact me to help them tone down their rhetoric a little bit. So it's fun. You give me a bully or give me somebody that's passive. So thank you for asking. And what about how do you see HR in the future?
That is a good question. I have seen it numerous ways. I know that HR itself as a profession has been shifting from more of the transactional to strategic. Throughout my research, throughout just my independent studies, I've been finding that just being more people-centric and talent-focused is going to be the way we are now and in the future. I have found that having a talent-focused mindset for leaders as well as human resources helps with retention, it helps with satisfaction, it helps with overall organizational commitment. I see us focusing more on bringing that cultural fit to, or the cultural add to the organization versus just finding that culture fit and molding that person to be within that culture. It's just accepting the diversity that's out there, accepting other people's experiences, education, what they know, what they don't know, and use that as an opportunity for growth.
Viewers and listeners, do you think we have a wonderful HR business professional on this interview? I mean, wow, really listening. So the future, it sounds like soft skills on steroids is what you're saying.
Yes.
Well, listen, before I invite you back, is there anything else you want to say? Because I don't want to, stop if there's something burning. Joyce, I forgot to say blah, blah, blah. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
The only thing I'd like to add for all of the HR professionals out there, all of the leaders out there, is just to keep going and follow your passions. And don't forget that we're all human. It's a symbiotic relationship, like I said before. Just be there for your employees, and employees be there for your leaders. Lift each other up and focus on the person, not just the title.
Like your bio said, you want to put the human in human resources.
Exactly.
And that's what you just said. Well, listen, Laura, please, would you come back?
I will.
I mean, I don't know where you live, but I know what city you work in. So, and plus we're recorded, you have to. This was an excellent interview. Maru Hospitality Group is so fortunate to have you on board. And I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Joyce. Have a wonderful day.
You too. So I hope that you enjoyed this interview with Laura Velez as much as I did. And until next time, I'm Joyce Weiss. And remember, you get what you tolerate.